My in-laws banned my daughter's boyfriend from Christmas because they're living in sin.
Oh no, not the sin.
Our daughter and her boyfriend, let's call him Dan, moved in together in August. It was fast. They'd only been together for 6 months, but they're old enough to make that decision and are discussing marriage. How old are they? I fully believe they're going to end up together. Dan had to move away for training this month, so they're going to be long distance for a little while, but plan to live together as soon as they're in the same city again. By the way, this comes from Goofus Maloofus. And if you want to submit your own stories, go to the r/OKStorytime subreddit. I'm Sophia.
And I'm Savannah.
I'm Carly.
And we're here to give good advice goofily, but we don't have all the answers. We only know what we do. And some of us are just dogs. Anyway, let us know what you would do in the comments. And OP says, now, my father-in-law can be a lot. He's your typical rich old white guy who's used to getting his way. He and my mother-in-law visited my daughter in November, and for some reason, father-in-law took an unreasonable dislike to Dan. No reason was given, he just doesn't like him. Personally, I think it may be because they moved in together so quickly, and or because Dan is a person of color, our family is white. But father-in-law would never admit it. So here's where it gets sticky. Dan will be spending Christmas with our immediate family at our house. His parents will be away, and he was going to be alone, so of course we invited him to stay with us. As far as we're concerned, he's going to be family, and we treat him as such. Now, my in-laws live about 2 hours away. Typically, we would do an overnight visit at their house for the holidays, and we're planning one when we invited Dan to stay with us. My partner was on the phone with his dad, ironing out the details, and he told his father about Dan staying with us. My partner was very careful to say he understood that it was his parents' decision whether they wanted to include Dan or not. It honestly never occurred to me that they'd leave him out. Well, my father-in-law had a hissy fit, said he didn't want that boy, he's 24, in his house. Didn't discuss it with his wife, who loves Dan, just flat out refused to include him. My partner, and I'm so proud of him for this, told his dad that Dan would be staying with us and would be a part of our holiday plans. He agreed that, of course, his dad had a right to decide who to have in his home, and he wasn't going to push that. He suggested his parents could talk about it separately, like not while on the phone with him, before making any final decisions. Then he suggested that if father-in-law truly didn't want Dan in his house, we could all meet for lunch or dinner halfway between our houses, all including Dan. What? What? I think that's kind of a silly thing to say. It's like, oh, if you don't want him in your house, we can go get dinner. Why wouldn't he come? What? I feel like if someone doesn't want that person in their house, they probably don't want to be around them at all.
Yeah. I feel like suggesting dinner is just like the same. You're still gonna
It's
be
just
around.
the same. Yeah, that doesn't really make sense to me. It did not go over well. My father-in-law immediately became defensive and snapped about how it was his house and his choice, and he didn't need to talk to his wife. His word was final. He's that guy. The hilarious part to me is my in-laws are devout Christians. So much for the season of love and acceptance, right? Anyway, my dilemma is how to address this with our daughter and Dan. I'm furious and disgusted with my father-in-law's behavior, and if it were up to me, I'd tell her exactly what her grandfather said, and that he told us Dan isn't welcome. But my partner said he'd rather just tell our daughter the overnight visit didn't work out, so she doesn't get mad at her grandparents. I disagree. She should be mad at her grandparents.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, if your grandparents are acting whack, you should be like, hey, grandpa, you're being sucky. Stop.
Stop living in sin, Grandpa.
Yeah. No, I think that's ridiculous. I think that you should tell her.
Yeah.
I think she should know the truth and get mad if she wants to. I know I am. So my question is this. How would you address it with your daughter? Personally, I don't care if she gets angry because of the truth. But these aren't my parents, and I want to respect my partner as well. What would you do? Edit. Holy crap, this got bigger than I expected. I'm reading every comment and will respond as much as I can. And my partner and I are married. I just tend to call them my partner instead of husband. Also, I should add that my father-in-law does refer to my brother-in-law as that boy as well, and my brother-in-law is white. That's part of why I'm not sure father-in-law's dislike of Dan is race-related. Edit 3, because it's coming up a lot. We aren't going to the in-laws even if father-in-law changes his mind. Lunch is still being debated. Comments, virtual choir boy. If she's adult enough to live with Dan, she's adult enough to hear the truth about what her grandfather said. Added bonus is that it means she'll be better prepared for any additional fallout from father-in-law if they proceed to an engagement and or eventual wedding. Don't embellish anything, just present the truth. Father-in-law has indicated he doesn't want Dan to join the family for Christmas. That means that you're not going to father-in-law's house for the day and are trying to arrange a lunch or dinner meetup somewhere in between both homes. Once a decision has been made, you'll give your daughter and Dan an update. And there is an update.
I say we just get into it.
Let's get into it. I've gotten a lot more responses to my first post than I expected. Since my original post, I've had several conversations with my husband, none of which have gone well. That's not good. I've explained I'm not comfortable with the lie of omission, only telling our daughter the date didn't work out, and feel she should be told to ask her grandfather why we won't be going. I don't like that either, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't think that she should have to go through the whole thing of asking her grandfather and then having to deal with that whole, just insulting rant or demeaning language from him about...
Yeah, I feel like it's not going to be good.
Yeah, like she has to deal with that whole conversation where he's just going to be aggressive with her.
Yeah.
I feel like just tell her, and then she can decide whether or not she wants to have a conversation with her grandfather.
Making her go through like a
sending her in blind.
Traumatic thing.
She's like, Grandpa, what's this about? And he's like, well, I hate your boyfriend.
No reason in particular.
Yep, he
I
just sucks. My husband still disagrees. He maintains that he's protecting her. I'm still arguing that he's protecting his father and therefore rewarding his behavior. He argues that my in-laws missing our overnight visit is the consequence. I finally told him I won't be lying to our daughter. If she asks me why we aren't going, I'm going to tell her she needs to talk to her grandfather about that. He can explain his decision to her. Well, I want to simply tell her, father-in-law said Dan isn't welcome. I'm not doing his dirty work for him. Frankly, I'm going to make sure she asks me because I'm not okay with her and Dan attending a lunch with someone who doesn't approve of Dan. It doesn't matter what my father-in-law's reasoning is. She has a right to know, and he has a responsibility to tell her himself. She can then make an informed decision about whether they want to attend. Well, but she wouldn't be attending because he said Dan can't come.
Yeah. But she said if he's not going, then I'm not.
And even more honestly, if they don't go, I don't go. She needs to know I back her unreservedly. Right now, things at home are icy between husband and I have no idea how this will turn out. I'll update again once there's more info. And there are some comments. I think you're in the right here, OP, except I think you should go one step further and actually tell her what's going on. And I think that your dad or your husband is trying to save the relationship between his daughter and his dad. Because, even if you have issues with your parents, a lot of people don't want to cut them off completely. A lot of people just end up kind of accepting those faults and those, more difficult parts of their parents. And I'm sure he doesn't want to just completely blow up that relationship between his daughter and his dad. However, she has a right to know.
Yeah.
She gotta know. Stop, look, listen, decide says if she is old enough to have a live-in boyfriend, she is old enough to be told. If they remain together or married, is dad just gonna keep making excuses and lies of omission? That's not gonna work. Cursed818 says you're right that your husband is protecting his father rather than his daughter. And that is going to be a much bigger long-term problem. It's possible that your husband privately agrees with his father, which is why he's protecting him. You need to get to the bottom of why your husband is taking this line. If it turns out that he's secretly discriminatory, that's going to have massive ramifications for your marriage and family. Don't wait for your daughter to ask. She's a grown-up. She can handle hearing about who her grandfather really is. Give her the respect of telling her outright what has been going on. Let the chips fall where they may for your husband and his father. ADKVT says lying to your children is a red flag, barring doing it for their safety or something. Your husband should recognize that if he needs to lie to his child, something is inherently wrong with the information he's seeking to hide. Update 2. Well, here we go again. I haven't had a chance to talk to my daughter yet. We were supposed to chat yesterday, but we weren't able to, so that conversation is on hold. I did, however, talk to my husband again. We got a lot deeper into his thinking on what's happening, and I have to say I was surprised. He's more upset than I thought he was about the situation. He was very angry at his father. The fact that my father-in-law apparently rejected Dan for no good reason infuriates him. He confirmed he, my husband himself, likes Dan and didn't understand why his father was acting this way. So no, my husband doesn't share his father's views. My husband talked about how hard it's been all his life to have to be the mediator in his family. As many suspected, this is a role he's played for a long time. It's always been his job to pat things down between his parents, between his siblings and parents, even between his parents and I. My husband's family is extremely conflict avoidant, and somehow he took on the responsibility for keeping it to a minimum between family members. He hates it, but says he feels stuck. I knew this about them, but didn't realize just how bad it was. So we talked about it, and I think both of us felt better afterwards. But that's not the real update. It's just all fake update.
That was just the update before the update.
A little amuse-bouche update. Apparently, after our last conversation, he did talk to his dad again. I know a bunch of you are waiting in the wings to scream, "Father-in-law's prejudiced." And I'm sorry to disappoint, but that isn't the problem. Why are you... Not a disappointment. That's good.
Yeah.
I'm
sorry
very glad that he's
you,
not.
but
yeah, he's not. He's not. Ugh.
sorry.
And no, Dan, our daughter's boyfriend, isn't a con man and didn't say anything unforgivable. My father-in-law is just a grumpy old man who thinks young people shouldn't be living in sin. That's a direct quote. Now, before anyone suggests father-in-law is lying, because I thought that too, my husband did ask his dad directly if the fact that Dan is a person of color had anything to do with father-in-law's dislike. When I suggested this as a possibility to my husband, he didn't think so, but wasn't 100% sure. Well, apparently my father-in-law was horrified. He asked my husband if he'd said or done anything to give us or Dan that idea. That's so funny. That's so funny. He's like, "Oh my God, no. I hate Dan, but not because he's not white. Just because I hate him."
No, he has bad taste in music.
He's just, he likes terrible bands.
He likes jazz.
He
the
likes
devil music.
jazz.
Sinful music.
No,
Sin.
I just, he should like classics like Johnny Cash.
And Mozart.
Mozart. Everyone loves Mozart, but Dan, he hates Mozart. But that's not because he's a person of color. And when we talked about it after their conversation yesterday, frankly, neither of us could come up with anything specific other than the boy comment. That father-in-law didn't want that boy to come for Christmas. As I said in my other posts, that was my suspicion, and I take full responsibility for it. In my head, I put too much emphasis on father-in-law calling Dan that boy, assuming it was discriminatory. As I said in both my other posts, my father-in-law refers to my white brother-in-law as that boy as well. So I'm the one who added that meaning, and I'm the one who suggested it to my husband. I feel awful. Again, I don't think you need to feel awful.
Yeah, it was a reasonable response.
Yeah.
And I feel like anyone with mind would also
Yeah.
be like, old man, young person of color.
Like most old people are a little bit.
Yeah, that's just
a little
they
bit
just
discriminatory.
grew up like that, and
Yeah.
sometimes they don't think they should get with the times.
Yeah, and even if they don't, they aren't necessarily, discriminatory, they probably will say things that aren't necessarily the most PC.
Yes.
It's generational. And you kind of have to call them out on it and be like, hey, you can't say that. Yeah, you can't say that word anymore. Don't do it. And I apologize if I misled anyone. That was never my intention. I really did think my father-in-law could be a bigot. I'm ashamed to be honest because it was one stupid sentence in almost 30 years of knowing him. Okay. We don't need to let him off the hook entirely. Like, he was still saying, oh, I can't have Dan over because they're going to live in sin. Like, he's still being a little bit, not great.
Yeah.
I made a mistake, and I've apologized to my husband. And yes, I'll apologize to my father-in-law. While they were talking, my father-in-law actually offered to speak directly to Dan and our daughter if they thought this, and my husband explained that no, we were the ones who suspected his issue could be racially motivated. That would be so funny. He goes to Opie's daughter. And he goes, now, let's name her. What's her name?
Stacy.
Stacy, it's your peepaw here. I don't like
Aw.
Dan, but not because he's a person of color. It's because I think you guys are going to because you're living together, okay? I love him. I'd love him if he were white. I'd love him if he were black. But I don't love you guys living together. And you're going to one way or another, but not because you're black.
Not because the color of your skin, but the color of your minds.
And the color of that apartment that you're renting together.
That bright red doesn't work
It
with
just
your eyes,
doesn't
though.
work, but it sure would work in an apartment.
I look like
I think that's a perfect
madman.
conversation.
Ugh.
His dad is understandably angry that we could think that of him, and I have damage control to do. I'll be calling my father-in-law today to apologize for that and talk about what's happening. But back to the reason father-in-law doesn't want Dan in his house for Christmas. He doesn't approve of Dan and our daughter living together. He says they're too young, it was too fast, and since they aren't even engaged, it isn't appropriate. As I've said before, my in-laws are devout Christians, so the living in sin aspect is very real to them. I swear the man is still living in the 60s, but that's his main issue. As an extension of that, he thinks they moved in together too quickly. I can see why he'd think that. They've only dated for 6 months before, but they've been together for a year now and are talking about marriage. My daughter says it will happen. They're just waiting until they're both finished with their training. Well, Dan was paying his own way with his savings while he waited for his full-time vocational training to start. Dan's actually moved for that, so he and our daughter will be long distance until he starts his very secure full-time job. Father-in-law didn't know that either. So, does he approve of Dan now? No. He's still got a stick up his nether regions that they were living together before marriage. Is he now willing to host Dan for the overnight visit? No. He still disapproves of their
Wow.
choices. Is he a discriminatory knucklehead? Also no. Just an old-fashioned 80-year-old who doesn't understand the world has changed. That's where we stand. We still aren't going to the in-laws for Christmas. Dan still isn't welcome at my in-laws, but now we know why. And what are we going to say to our daughter? The truth. That her grandfather isn't comfortable having Dan stay overnight when they aren't engaged. That it's his house, and we have to respect that. But, couldn't they just stay in separate rooms?
Yeah. I feel like that would, help the situation.
Yeah.
Like he could still come.
Yeah, you just can't stay in the same room
Yeah.
as his granddaughter.
Just like one can sleep upstairs, one can sleep downstairs type of situation. I don't know. I just feel like there is like a clearer solution, I feel. But who knows? I don't know.
That we're going to try to meet for lunch instead, and she and Dan are welcome to join us, and we'll let them decide. I'll be suggesting she talk to her grandfather directly. Update 3. First, the conversation with my father-in-law. It was short and mostly cordial. I apologize for assuming his boy comment meant he had an issue with a person of color dating his granddaughter. I explained that the term is often considered a slur against people of color, hence my reaction. Well, it's just very demeaning. He grudgingly accepted my apology. He pointed out that that's what he called my brother-in-law too, who incidentally is white. And he didn't think it meant anything other than a male younger than himself. As a few people suggested, I pointed out that even if he didn't intend it to be an insult, it still was one. He sounded surprised and asked if I thought my brother-in-law was offended when he called him that. I asked if he'd ever called brother-in-law that to his face, and he went very quiet. So I pointed out that if father-in-law didn't think it was an insult, why didn't he openly call brother-in-law that? He sort of harumphed and muttered something about how people are too sensitive. Dude, you're literally getting all up in arms about two people sleeping over in your house.
Yeah.
Pretty sensitive.
I don't know. Just Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure he got it. We
Yeah.
moved on. I then asked if Dan was welcome in his house at all or just not overnight. That really seemed to surprise him because he said of course Dan could visit, just not sleep over. So that was a relief. He then said that we jumped to suggesting a lunch so quickly he didn't have a chance to suggest we just visit for the day, talk about miscommunication. So the call ended with us agreeing that this year meeting in a neutral restaurant was for the best and we plan better for next year. If Dan's still around, he felt the need to add. But he ended the call by saying he missed us and was looking forward to lunch. So all good there. Then the talk with our daughter. She brought up the visit herself and asked when we were going to her grandparents. Her dad and I had agreed on our response, which was we were going to meet halfway for lunch instead. She was disappointed and asked why. As gently as possible, I told her not everyone is comfortable with having someone they don't know very well staying in their home. Before I could say anything else about my father-in-law's reaction, she made me laugh by asking if Grandpa still had a stick up his butt about her and Dan living together. Everyone who said she already knew was spot on. Then we had a bit of a giggle about old-fashioned values and how not everyone thinks the way we do. We talked about how people react when a relationship moves so fast. Her father's and mine did too, and that attitudes change in time and that Grandpa just didn't know Dan yet. I let her know I wasn't invited to sleep over until her dad and I were engaged either. That helped. She laughed and said at least her grandfather is consistent. Then I reminded her that her dad and I support her and them 100%, and she said she knew that. And that was about it. By the way, I would support that you guys listening to full episodes of stories just like this. Just go to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or iHeartRadio and search up OK Storytime. There is a little bit left to this story. Any final thoughts?
I mean, I just think, I mean, it's just like old-fashioned values, whatever. Like, if the grandpa's not comfortable, it's his house, whatever. You can't really do much.
No.
So
I think it's fine.
It's whatever. And, if it ends up being a thing, then yeah. Then, like, maybe, down the line when you are engaged or married or whatever, then yeah, cool. But I guess just for right now, follow Peepaw's rules.
Yeah. My grandpa's like that, but he never really said much about my, because, like, I think all of my dad and, like, his siblings, were living with most of them were living with their partners before marriage and stuff. My grandpa was like, well, I didn't agree with it, but it's their life, which I think is a pretty good way to go about it.
Yeah.
I'm sure some people will be disappointed that there wasn't a big explosive confrontation where we cut father-in-law out of our lives because he's a secret member of a white supremacist group. But that's just not what happened. There was a misunderstanding, a miscommunication, and some judgmental attitudes from both my father-in-law and I. We're still going to see my in-laws, and Dan will be coming. It just won't be overnight. And things are okay with us and our daughter and with us and our father-in-law. As to father-in-law's relationship with our daughter, we're leaving it to them. This will be the final update because the issue is basically resolved. Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night. And that is the end of that story. Great ending. Everything's fixed.
It just
hallelujah.
I feel like it was just blown out of proportion.
Yeah.
Like they assumed a lot of things, and then it was like, oh, wait, actually,
my bad.
It's this. And they're like,
it's just the living in sin stuff.
Okay, well, that makes it. I get the sin part. I didn't get the person of color part.
It's like I can excuse. Have you like the Community quote?
Maybe.
It's like I can excuse racism, but I draw the line at animal cruelty.
And then they go, you can excuse racism.
Yeah. But it's replace that with living in sin.
Replace that with living in sin. My sister-in-law thinks everything I do is wrong, and I don't know what to do.
Maybe do something right.
Here's the point. I am very lost and have never been in this situation before. Hopefully someone on here has had a similar experience and can lend some guidance. 2 years ago, I began to notice my sister-in-law, who is now 38 female, seemed to be getting quieter and quieter around my family. I am 35 female now. She married my brother, who is now 40 male, about 8 years ago, and they have had 4 adorable kids together. By the way, this comes from Twak16. And if you want to submit your own stories, go to the r/OK Storytime subreddit. I am Savannah.
I'm Sophia.
I'm Carly.
And we are here to give some good advice goofily, but obviously we don't have all the answers. We would only tell you what we would do in this situation, but we would love to know what you would do in the comments below. As OP says, they are a super sweet family. My brother adores his wife. She loves him very much. And overall, we all get along really well. She is a nurse, super smart, kind, funny, and has one of those infectious laughs. I was thrilled when they got married. I really look up to her. It was bothering me that she seemed to be going through something. She was not joining in on our conversations anymore. For the past almost 2 years, she has been coming over on Sundays, not always in a row, but sometimes every other or every few weeks. But when she is over, she just sits in a corner and does not seem to want to be around us, and she ignores all of us. I have a sister, 37 female, and her husband, 41 male. They have 2 kids. My parents are still together, both 62. We do not have a big family, so it is noticeable when someone is not engaged or present. Spoke with my parents, and we agreed maybe we were unintentionally being cliquey. So we agreed to make more of an effort talking with her when she is over. We tried to make her feel noticed, special, and gave her extra attention. We tried that for a while, and nothing changed. We got 1-word responses and nothing back for months.
I hate that.
Yeah.
That's the worst.
Yeah.
It's like, there are some people that are shy and stuff, and just not until they're comfortable around people.
Yeah.
But
she's been around for years.
Yeah, she's been around for years. And also, if I were her partner, I'd be pretty upset that my partner is not engaging with my family.
Yeah. That's like a big thing for me. You gotta like my family in order to be with me. Sorry.
Yeah.
Family's everything.
Mm-hmm.
We
Agreed.
became frustrated and hoped she would just snap out of it. Nothing changed, of course, and it seemed to get worse. I spoke again with my parents about it, about how this was not okay. I want her to be happy and feel comfortable and be a part of this family. She is my sister now. I live an hour away from them all, and they all live about a 10-minute drive apart from each other. My mom said she would talk to my brother to see if there was something personal going on or if we had done something to offend her. She was able to get him alone, and he said yes, there was something wrong. It was me. She does not like me. When I'm around, she dislikes me so much that she would rather sit in a corner and not talk to anyone. I was completely stunned. I asked my sister if my sister-in-law acted different when I was not able to make it on Sundays, and she said that now that she thought of it, yes.
She's like, now that you mention it,
yeah,
she loves her. She's a chatterbox.
Yeah, she's just the center of attention without you. My sister-in-law is much more open, talkative, and her usual happy self. She had never noticed that before. I have been feeling so hurt and surprised. I have not said or done anything to or about my sister-in-law. I love her, and I think she is wonderful. This completely caught me off guard. My mom asked my brother why his wife feels this way. Did not want to say much, but he did say a couple of things. Here we go.
Uh-oh.
She does not like that I got a divorce. Okay, well,
it's not really up to you,
yeah,
bud.
That's not your problem. You can have an opinion, but
yeah,
I don't like you because you got divorced.
Yeah.
She felt my ex-husband was good for me and that I should not have divorced him and that I have commitment issues.
Okay.
Can't wait to get the backstory of this marriage.
Okay.
She never asked me, but my ex-husband was manipulative, awful, and I was not happy. Divorce was an extremely difficult decision to make and to go through. She says sometimes people just do not get along, and I guess she just does not like me.
Yeah, sometimes people don't like each other, but you still have to be nice. You still have to be respectful.
Yeah. And also, like, during, like, a family event,
Yeah.
like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, be present, be active. Like,
I don't know. I'm personally an advocate of, like, just be respectful to everyone, regardless of, like, you don't have to like everyone. I don't like everyone.
Yeah.
There are a lot of
I don't
people
know.
I really don't like.
I don't like a lot.
It's true. Savannah tells me all the time about the people that she doesn't like. she's very vocal about it. But to those people, she's nice.
Stop. My New Year's resolution is to not be pushover anymore. I'm growing a backbone, guys. Give me a second.
Just give
It's
her
not even the New Year yet.
It takes
I still
a minute
have
to
time.
grow. We have to water it.
To water it. She thinks I am selfish and does not understand mental health. I was traumatized when I was a teenager and more, and I have been on and off in therapy since I was 25 for the aftermath. I do not talk about it with my family, but my mom and sister know about it all. Maybe they said something to her. I keep trying to replay any conversation we have had in the past, which is very few, to see if there was anything I could have done or said to upset her or make her dislike me. We have a lot in common. He works a lot of nights, so I see my brother and his kids more often. When we talk about TV shows, movies, countries to travel to, or that we have been to, favorite colors, music, and more, my sister-in-law and I like all the same things. We seem to have the same sense of humor as well, and like the same board games. That's a big one.
Well, if you like the same board games, well,
Gamble up.
Gamble up.
We're in. We both do not drink booze either.
I love that OP's like bringing up the most superficial reasons, and she's like, "Why doesn't she like me?"
We like the same board games. What could possibly
We
be
both
wrong?
like Monopoly, and we don't drink.
We're both
We should
sober
be best
Sallys.
friends. That's like kindergarten rules. That's
Yeah.
like, this is why you become friends with someone in kindergarten.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you like to play with dolls? Let's be best friends.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that anymore, OP.
I do remember when they first were dating and engaged, we all went camping to the same campground we have been going to since we were kids. I was staying on my parents' campsite as they were. I went up a day early with my parents. I set up their tent, helped my parents with their trailer, and then they asked if I could set up my brother and his fiance's tent. I said, sure. I set up their tent by myself and blew up their air mattress and helped my dad with their tarp. They were arriving the next day, so it would make their arrival nicer. I had to leave earlier than everyone else because I was going back to work sooner. When the day came for me to leave, my parents told me not to worry about taking down my tent, that they would do it later. I said, okay, thank you. When they got back home from camping, I helped them unpack and they set up my tent in their front yard to clean it out. My mom was on the phone and upset. All I remember from that was something about my sister-in-law complaining to my brother that I was lazy and selfish for not taking down my own tent. My mom snapped at her. My mom never snaps at anyone, so she must have been really mad. She told her that they had asked me to leave my tent up and that I had set up their tent by myself. I had not told them because it did not matter to me who set it up. She never apologized to me, just to my mom, I think. The only other situation I can think of is when it was my grandpa's birthday party and they were taking generational photos.
Cool.
They asked me to take the pictures. I am not a photographer by any means. I took a few and asked my brother to come take a look because the screen was dark.
So, OP, that's when you turn up the brightness. Where we start.
The lens cap is still on,
Yeah.
actually.
She's like, I can't see anything. Is that normal?
It's dark, but it comes out later, right?
Yeah. We're just like developing these, right? He's
Yeah,
like, no. So this is a digital camera.
They develop in real time.
Yeah.
He said the pictures were fine and that he could fix them later.
Oh, okay.
So they weren't fine
Yeah.
then. These are fine, I'll fix them.
Yeah, whatever. I don't know.
My brother had previously said his wife felt I was not very interested in their kids. So I made sure to play more with them and hold their baby more often. I do love my nephews very much. I am just not good with kids. My mom passed me their newest baby, and after a little bit, he began to cry. My sister-in-law was talking with my aunt and said, "You can give him here." I smiled and replied, "I'm okay. Maybe he just needs a new position." And I held him differently. He was okay for a minute. Then he cried again.
1 second. Just
Maybe you just need to. Your head goes here.
That's me holding donut. Maybe she just needs. Maybe she just needs.
It's true. She needs to be in a different position. She's good. Then cried again. My sister-in-law said, "He might be hungry." And I said, "Oh, sorry, I didn't know. Here you go." And passed her my little nephew. A few days after that, I got a call from my brother saying his wife was very upset.
Oh my gosh.
And that I was being selfish and hogging the baby. And then I completely ruined all the photos.
You can't win.
Well, yeah.
A girl can't win.
I just
I'd be
don't-
like, you know what? Invoice me all your complaints. Just send me an invoice. Wait until the month's over. I don't want all of the complaints separately. Just clump them together.
Yeah, like, I don't really get it. That I should have told them the pictures were dark. I explained how I did ask him about the photos and that I would call my sister-in-law to apologize about my nephew. I called her 20 minutes later and said how sorry I was, that I did not mean to hog the baby, that I wanted her to see that I do care about my nephews and that I had spoken to my brother about the photos. She said, "Nothing is wrong, nothing to be sorry for."
This is so confusing.
I was very confused. I kept apologizing anyway, and then we said goodbye. By the way, we'll never say goodbye to you because you can listen to episodes just like this, full episodes. Just go to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, or your favorite podcast app and search OK Storytime. All right, what are we thinking? This girl sounds like a freaking nightmare, and I want to slap a silly.
Honestly, I think OP, you need to stop apologizing for all these things because it's not fixing it. I think you just say to your brother, hey, it seems like your wife has an overarching problem with me and is nitpicking kind of everything I do.
Yeah.
And if we need to figure that out, I'd be glad to. But this is getting a little ridiculous.
Yeah. It just seems like she's impossible. Like,
Yeah.
she's one of those people that's impossible to please, like, no matter what you do. Like, you can bow down to them. You can kiss the ground they walk on. And they'll
And she'd
be
be like, well, you
"Mm."
kissed it wrong.
Yeah. She'll be like, too much spit. You missed a spot.
You missed a spot.
I wanted you to lick that, but you just kissed it. No. Wrong.
Send it back.
Wrong. Send it back. Wrong. Here we are today. I do not know if I should speak to my brother about the things he said to my mom to get more background and details on why she dislikes me so much, or if I should speak directly with her to see if there is some common ground we can come to. My family cannot keep having her sit in the corner silently. We are a close and loving family. We like to sit around, laugh, talk, and play games together. It does not feel right when she is not involved. I own property in Not Savannah. I could move there.
It's true. It's not
Yeah.
Savannah.
Yeah, so you can own property
Yeah.
wherever you want, just not there. I could move there and be out of the way so they can all be happy together. Oh, OP. That's
Okay,
sad.
don't change your life to please this one woman who is not pleasable.
Yeah. And when I come back to visit, I could make sure she is not there. A part of me wants to let it go. Another part of me wants to stand up for myself. I get angry with how she's treating me and my family when I have not done anything to her to deserve this silent treatment. Then I also get sad. Any thoughts?
Yeah, you need to stop apologizing to her. And if she gets mad, you just ignore her.
Yeah.
You treat her like you treat a child who's having a tantrum. You don't give them attention.
I feel like you will, like, eventually there's going to be, like, a point, like, a blow-up point that is going to be, like, oh, like, she's going to, like, get mad at something, and it's just going to be the breaking point of, like, okay, like, come
I'm
on,
done.
you know, type of thing.
Yeah.
So, I think, yeah.
Yeah, but don't change your life to, fix her
Yeah.
tantrums because she's never going to be happy.
Yeah.
But that's the end of that story.